I gotta ask you this, man. Like, where did Wassup Doug come from?
I ain't gonna get too much because we recorded, so I thought we were behind the scenes. So I'm gonna give it a little bit in depth. If you know me, and people that do know me, they know C Dougie stands for something. The C stands for something. The D stands for something.
Okay.
So hopefully, John, you put two and two together.
All right.
One thing for my first name, a lot of my homeboys would call me that, and then for my middle name, people like Doug. So people should know what's short for Doug. So then, just down the line, they just blended it and said C Dougie. Some people call me Doug. Some I'll say Doug. Some people call me Douglas. But yeah, C Dougie just came from basically my personality in college, and Wassup Doug came from my middle name, Doug. But then what's up? What's up, Doug? Like rather than my first name, what's up, Doug? So
I'm gonna tell you how I interpret it. If I knew you in college, like if it's what's up, Doug, get it popping. So when I'm calling, hey, what's up, Doug? Where they at tonight? You know what I'm saying?
Wake up in the morning, I'm focused in on what really matters. And these rappers still chatter as if it even matters. Stack money like books, I'm on my next chapter. Cause at the end of the day, what are you really after? 5% of my salary goes to charity. I'm engaged to success. Who'da known it would marry me?
Doug gonna get it popping.
Try to hit it on the note, but like I said, that was back in, like I said, it's the reason why that name came C Dougie.
Right.
So, like I said, hey, you hit it right on the head when you said it. So, yeah, that's where it come from. But I mean, I got multiple nicknames, but C Dougie, people call me Dougie Fresh, Doug. It just depends on who you talk to, but it centers around Doug. So
that's what's up, man. So, okay, how long you been in this space, man? Because I've heard your name floating around in multiple different, like when I cross-channel platforms, you know what I'm saying? So, and obviously I've been watching your content for a little while now, but like what got you started here? Like what was the, original like time that you kind of came into the space?
So really and truly, like I should have been doing this a long time ago. I started about 2 years ago. Shout out to Arkansas State, my alum. I was equipment manager and a GA there. So that's not really, some of the coaches that I know, I just throw some names out there. One of my favorite coaches, Trooper Taylor, who's at Texas A&M now, Brian Harsin, Gus Malzahn, Blake Anderson, Hugh Freeze. Those are some of the coaches that I was able to work with while I was at State. And just knowing sports, having a mind for sports, always had a dream outside of going to college was working for ESPN. But how certain people feel about ESPN. I just I want to be my own, boss. So I don't have to answer anybody. I still had to follow guidelines. And shout out to Well Off Media. I had an opportunity to meet Bucky Sanders, Deion Sanders' son, and I told him he was one of the people that inspired me to do vlogs. Like I said, Doug is just not a YouTuber. We do vlogs. We travel. We have boots on the ground. We go to different games. We are Carolina Panther fans first, but we're not going to keep ourselves in a box. Like last year, we go to Kansas City and see the Kansas City Chiefs. The year before, we were able to go see the Philadelphia Eagles. So we try to bring different things through different lenses over here. What's up, Doug? Again, we do pods, we do vlogs, do interviews. That's more coming this year. I know a lot of people say interviews. We actually have draft prospects that we're going to be interviewing here at the Combine. So again, we're not just a podcast. Whereas I'm not going to say an experience because I don't call it that, but it's more than just sitting behind a computer or behind a mic.
That's what's up. Yeah, man. I noticed some of your stuff, and we'll get into this, a little bit later. But some of your boots on the ground coverage of the Shrine Bowl, like I watched the Bucky Brooks interview specifically, and I thought that was fascinating. So, like I said, we'll get into that in a moment. But I wanted to ask you, man, just to kind of start things off. So we just came off of a huge weekend, man, Super Bowl weekend, Eagles and Chiefs. I wanted to get your big picture thought on what you've seen, and then I'll ask some more questions on how that can maybe potentially correlate to what the Panthers can do, moving forward. But just your overall theme or perspective of the game, and like, what did you think about? I mean, because obviously what we saw was not common. Seeing Patrick Mahomes get completely shut down like that. What was your thoughts on watching what the Eagles was able to do in that victory?
So I'll say this first. Most of my family are Eagles fans. My grandma's from Jersey. My mom's from Jersey. So shout out to the Eagles. If there were not a Carolina Panthers, I would be an Eagles fan. But
Okay.
no, I'm a Panther fan.
Yeah.
But appreciate John letting me know. I already got some notes here. I just pulled my notes up. The first bullet point that I have is a dominant defensive line changed the outcome of this game.
Yeah.
We've never seen, really in a long, long time, a front four. We're not talking about blitz. We're not talking about linebacker. We're talking about a front four dominate a game the way that they did.
Yeah.
Totaling 6 sacks. For me, everybody says, the Chiefs limped into the playoffs. For me, not really, because I saw this during training camp when I was able to see them. I mean, it's almost like they didn't have to go the extra mile because they've been there before. So I'm just going to do the bare minimum. I understand how people say the refs help them all the time, but for me, it was like I knew they were going to be there, but I didn't expect it to happen the way it did for their offensive line to just look like dumpster juice. Like, I mean, I've never seen Patrick Mahomes get hit that much and that impactful where it hurt him. And you can tell the chemistry, everything just fell apart. I want to say, was that right? It was either the second half or right going into halftime where they had back-to-back sacks. You can just tell, like, he looked dumbfounded, like, this has never happened to me.
And he was getting blown up, too. One of those sacks, man, the Milton Williams sack, where Jalen Carter kind of pushed him in the face.
Jalen Carter hit him right here underneath the chin.
God, man, he got blasted. And I'm just I'm thinking like you. I'm like, man, it's fascinating to see. Like, I don't, Doug, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if we've ever seen what we saw from a front four like that before, right? Like, in many games at all. That's kind of stuff you see, like, you might see Georgia do that to, like, I don't know, UNLV. You know what I'm saying? Or something
Georgia
like that.
Did it at TCU. Just go to when Georgia beat TCU in the national championship game.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Great point, right? Or Florida State when they got into the, playoff and they got smacked, right?
Correct.
So it's a similar situation, right? And so to me, Georgia didn't make the playoffs, but they played Georgia and got demolished, right? On the outside looking in. But to see a front four, because, they run a similar defense that we do, pretty much the same defense, right? Because Avero is a zero, disciple, if you will. And so to see your front four in a nickel, right, do what you were able to do without blitzing so you could drop 7 into coverage like pretty much at all times, man, that was fascinating. It was fascinating. So, like, I'm sure when you're watching that, you like me thinking like, how can we do that? You know what I'm saying? Because we seen some moments this year where our front four got a little bit of pressure, but by and large, man, it was compared to that, we were a high school team.
Correct. And the other point before I was going to do this too is Jalen Hurts finally got over that hurdle. A lot of fans, a lot of analysts were saying Jalen Hurts was the wrong quarterback. The Kansas City Chiefs made it. You have to beat us.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley's not going to beat us. You have to beat us. And I think Jalen Hurts accepted the challenge from the jump. I mean, that deep ball to Devontae Smith, I was like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the game was already over, but it was like, that's the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
I mean, the best pass was Patrick Mahomes throwing it to Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
Well, he just chunked it. But again, if we're talking about Jalen Hurts finally getting over that hurdle, I'm not going to say the other word because somebody laughed and said I called him, something. But I really think I don't like Nick Sirianni. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. I don't. Again, I follow the Eagles because of my family. I don't like Nick Sirianni, but I'm actually happy he was able to put it all together. Again, this team, regardless of what Jalen Hurts did, this was a defense-led team, a number one defense with Vic Fangio. A lot of people were criticizing Vic Fangio for his defensive scheme down in Miami, but he came with younger players, players that bought in, knew their role, and it showed whenever the money was on the line. I mean, the money's on the line every week. But this is the last game of the season. And they did everything to show the reason why they deserve that number one defense. And that's one thing. I mean, the Panthers don't, going into the question I know you asked earlier, the Panthers don't need to have a number one defense. We need to have a middle of the pack defense. And if you look at the 2 games, I got the stats here. We lost on a game-winning field goal against the Chiefs. Then we lost on a potential game-winning touchdown drive by Bryce. Again, if our defense was in the middle of the pack, who possibly knows? I understand people say, "Oh, they play down the competition." You don't know that. That's just an assumption and a take. We're not in that locker room. We're not on that field. We do not know exactly how those boys played out. But for me, if we have a middle of the pack type defense next year, our offense doesn't regress. Hey man,
sky's the limit.
Hey man.
Hey, go a little bit deeper on that Sirianni take, man. Like, what do you mean when you say you don't like him? Like, give me examples.
So again, I've been to Philly numerous of times.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if you look at what Doug Peterson did, well, let's go back. Let's go back to Andy Reid. I feel like Andy Reid should never been fired after the whole debacle with Donovan McNabb, Terrell Owens.
Yeah, agree.
He got fired. Then they got Chip Kelly. That was a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Then you bring in Doug Peterson. I think Nick Sirianni always wanted to be like Doug Peterson because Doug Peterson was able to bring a championship to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a chip on his shoulder because if we think our fans are crazy and want people cutthroat, you haven't been to Philly. When I say Philly is, you can do something all the way great.
Yeah, it's different. And
they're going to still cut, call for your head to be cut off.
That's right.
So for me, it was just like for him interacting with the fans during games, calling fans out, him getting into it with players last year. Him and Jalen didn't have a good relationship last year.
No.
So for me, it was like, you're trying too hard. Again, I understand the pressure of being a Philadelphia Eagles coach. It's one of the hardest organizations to play for because of the fans. So I felt like he was an imposter by trying to be somebody that he's not. But again, it just meshed well together. I think they had to hit the reset. Shout out to Kellen Moore, the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Mm-hmm. But again, Vic Fangio was the key cog for this team. Again, they did not play well in the beginning. That defense started turning the page when they went to Cincinnati. And they were really supposed to lose that game, and they turned things around when they played Cincinnati early in the year, and that defense never looked back.
Right.
So
that's fascinating. So you talked about how nobody. So these guys are not playing down the competition, right? And when you look at those two games that we played against them, one thing stood out in particular, and it was the person that we had behind center and what he has done to improve his game. So I want to ask you a question because I posed this the other day, right? You had an interesting take on Bryce. Now, it wasn't anything like, crazy or anything like that, but I just happened to be listening to this show and I caught something that you said and I was like, because this kind of plays into what my thoughts have been on him. And I want to hear you go a little bit deeper on this take that I'm about to play right here. So check it out.
Did you have any thoughts on Peyton Manning and his kind of thoughts with Bryce Young? And as the Panthers.com put that out.
So that goes with what Dave Canales said. It was literally almost back-to-back days. Dave said something and Peyton said something. I think everybody is understanding. I'll say it. I'm not going to say the person's name. There was a well-known NFL person that works for NFL Network that off camera, I don't have this on camera, but I'm quoting him directly. We asked him about Bryce Young. He said, people have to understand, Bryce Young was a starter for modern day as a ninth grader for varsity.
I'm pretty sure I know who this is, but go ahead.
Yeah. Like I said, when he brought that, I was like, whoa. And I'm like, modern day is a powerhouse. Then he said he's never faced adversity until he's been in the pros. He said he was so nervous about how Bryce was going to react to adversity when he came back that he said when he came back, he said he think Bryce even leveled up and hit another tier in his game that he never saw from the days of him being a kid to a grown man now.
All right. And that's what I wanted. It was that right there. That next level. And the reason I asked that question, Doug, is because what I saw him do, and this is where I always got hung up, even when he was struggling, even when people was like saying, yo, John, you tripping, this dude is not it, right? I can't unsee what I saw him do against Arkansas. 500 yards in that game. I cannot unsee what I saw him do versus Georgia. Many of those players who we just saw on that defense, I was just telling, I did a pod with, a mock draft with a real ball watcher. And I was like, man, when you think about rotations, right, you got Milton Williams, and we were talking about draft stuff, which we're going to get to this at some point. But, like, when you talk about, like, drafting, right, my front four is going to be Milton, you know what I'm saying? Who was it? Milton, Jalen, gosh, I can't remember the other, Brandon Graham, and and who was the other one? Was it Nolan? Sweat, Josh Sweat, that's right. All right. So I'm hitting you in the mouth with that already. Well, guess what your consolation prize is? Jordan Davis, right? You know what I'm saying? So like,
came in rotation.
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, I saw him do that against guys like that: Nakobe Dean, Keely Ringo, Nolan Smith, Jalen Walker. All those guys were on that team, and this guy wasn't playing with people like Henry Ruggs or Devontae. I mean, he had Jameson, no doubt, right? But we talking about like Jermaine Kearse. We talking about Cameron Latu. We talking about these aren't your premier Alabama guys, right?
Correct.
For him to do that, and the only biggest difference between him doing that there and doing that what we've seen now in Carolina, in my opinion, is keeping them clean. So when I heard you say that, I was like, I want to go deeper about what this guy said, because I feel the same way. I feel like this dude done unlocked another level, and I think he getting ready to do some stuff that we don't even think that's possible. I want to know if you agree with that take from me based on what you said there.
I agree, but it goes back. So let's go back to training camp.
Okay.
Going to training camp, being able to see him do that joint practice, based off of what happened his rookie year, I was blown away. I mean, the way he was throwing bombs, him and David Moore was hooking up, Adam Thielen.
In training camp.
In training camp. It's the joint practice. It's the joint practice.
Yeah.
So, going to the first game of the season, let's fast forward. When we played in the Superdome, I'm like, I blinked several times and just lay back in my chair while I was sitting there, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me. That's the worst. I said, you got to be kidding me. This is not the same Bryce that I saw doing training camp. And I've never said this. I don't think you've heard this, or if you have, I said Bryce Young had an issue with PTSD. And I don't take that lightly saying that.
Okay. I've heard that take before, but yeah, go ahead.
Because it goes into him saying he takes his mental health very seriously.
Right.
And the reason why I say he had PTSD is when you get hit 62 times, you never been hit like that.
Right.
Then you didn't have really live game reps. You had controlled practice reps. You didn't get hit when you played the Buffalo Bills in the last preseason game. That's your first live action, and I think he got scared. I'm not gonna say he played scared, but he reverted back to his old ways and didn't have a clear mind.
Right.
So when you go to New Orleans, you get mud stomped. Then you play your home opener against the Chargers. You don't come to play then again. You get benched. And like the person said, it was a reset. But this has never happened to Bryce since he's been playing big boy ball since the 9th grade. And for me, whenever we were talking, I was just like, you look at that Denver game. You look at how he walked different. He had a different aura. It was just something different about him. That smile was still there, but it was more like, yeah, I'm gonna show y'all something different. So fast forward to the very last game. People can say whatever they want to say. Tape don't lie. Only thing you can go from the tape. And the way that last game again, and shout out to the blueprint. A lot of people said on the blueprint at the end, saying that this is a different type of win going in the last 2 seasons. You put up 44 points. You see all the coaches smiling. It was almost like we unlocked a different tier. Like John just said, the Panthers unlocked a different tier, but the reason why they unlocked that tier because their quarterback can only go up from here.
That's right.
And it shows the reason why a lot of people during Media Row were saying, this is the Bryce Young that we were saying that was the reason why he was the #1 pick. Right. This is the reason why Carolina should have took Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. Yes, I understand our GMs and his play didn't help all the time, but when he's able to unlock that potential in that next tier, That's the reason why I think that momentum is going to carry over into 2025 season.
What do you think if you're okay, clearly you and I have both been in some spaces where there's still a lot of people who aren't believers.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question first. Have you been one of those people?
That didn't believe in Bryce?
Yeah, that wasn't a believer, like early on, from the very beginning.
Now, are you talking about draft or once we drafted him?
I'm talking about pre-draft, after we drafted him, and then through all the stuff that went on last year and beyond.
So I will answer this. I was the CJ Stroud first, because of what I was hearing. I have an insider. Shout out to my guy JC Koss from RWRC. He's in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and he called me and was like, "You need to switch your tape. You guys are white on rice on Bryce." Like CJ Stroud. This is at the combine. This is before pro days. This is at the combine. He's literally texting me saying, "I understand what the media is saying, but I'm letting you know right now, it's Bryce or bust. Bryce has to do something." Look, John, go back. You can go back on my channel, and it's JC Cott's interview. It's with the red and I think it's like a red and yellow backdrop because I think we had the draft in Kansas City. And I brought him up, and he literally told us that Bryce Young was the pick. That's when I invested because, again, he had boots on the ground. I tell people, when you have people on boots on the ground, don't listen to these national media.
Exactly.
Don't listen to them because, again, they have a narrative that they have to push. Listen to these people that are actually talking to players, doing the work, us content creators going behind doing stuff. And when he told me that, I had to just take his word as bond. And sure enough, he was right. He was there during draft night, and he was like, he just sent me a smile face. I said, "Hey, no complaints. No complaints."
What do you think that, okay, what changed his mind? Like, was it something that he saw, like, you know, during, like, pre-draft workouts? Was it something that he saw at the combine? Was it somebody he talked to, like more tape that he watched? What do you think was the thing that kind of led to that?
The conversation. So this is where I'm telling everybody now. The rumors, again, are going to come out during the combine because the following week, or I want to say in a week and a half, you have legal tampering and you have free agency.
Right.
This is where you're about to get your cap cuts, your extensions, who you're visiting, because, again, now you need to match up the visits from the Senior and Shrine Bowl with the NFL Combine. Then from the NFL Combine, you need to pay attention to who they see at pro days. Then whoever you see at the pro days, you look at your top 30 visits. So it's almost like a train. You have to pay attention to see boom, 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 boom until the draft. And that, again, like I said, one part that you can look at it is 6 out of the 7 draftees last year were either met the Panthers at the Senior Shrine Bowl and it had a top 30 visit. So again, for when JC was telling me, it was based off of him having ear to the ground, him seeing it for himself, and him interviewing players and interviewing executives. So, I mean, it was basically there. That's the reason why when you get access or you apply for access, you don't know who you're going to run into. You're not going to know what answers you're going to get. Again, I had the privilege of running into Dan Morgan. I had the privilege of running into a Bucky Brooks. I had the privilege of running into a Mike K and actually asking them. Like I said, I can't voice everything on camera, but off camera, again, it's just a word of mouth conversation. I can tell you a lot. But again, you do not understand the exposure, the information you get once your feet are on the ground and your ears to the ground.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. You know, I showed this the first time that I tweeted this, and it caught a little bit of fire. But when I went through and actually showed it to someone, and Duncan and I, when we did a collab together, we looked at this, and I want to show you this. Yeah, that's my man. And so this thing right here, man, like, I can't definitively say what this was, but to me, I felt like this was a turning point as well. Because, like, guys like Bryce Young who kind of hold back, like, I read an article about him, and his dad was saying, like, early on in his life, he used to be really high strung, you know, when he was young. And his dad kind of had to bring that down. And so I feel like in some ways he works extra hard to suppress that version of himself until you get him to a point where he feels comfortable talking about something. Like when he was on Gruden's show, for example, and he started talking to Gruden about all kind of stuff with film and stuff like that. And it was like, man, when he gets in that space like that, you don't see him doing the little fidgeting where he's touching his neck and then scratching his arm and all that kind of stuff. Like it just coming out of him because you can tell like he really loves ball. It's natural. That's right. So when I seen this right here, I felt like this was the moment because it's like, yo, I got benched. You know what I'm saying? Y'all benched me. Who knows what the reason was outside of just bad play, which I'm going to die on the hill of, Doug. You got to let him work through that. You know what I'm saying? But I've also got a conspiracy theory that I feel like it was possible that they benched him to try to flush out the problem, which ended up being Deontay, right? But if you are a quarterback in the NFL, you have to learn how to manage personalities in addition to the game. So that's something that you got to learn. But this moment right here, it felt to me like, because this was like, Bryce had just went on a drive where we scored to get within striking distance, right? So with the 17-16, we come back out and instead of being aggressive, it's just like 3 straight like swing pass, run, just pity pat stuff. And I felt like when he came off the field, he like, hey man, look, I don't like to play. You believe in me or not? You know what I'm saying?
That's the word I was about to say, John. It was the belief, and I think Dave Canales had to understand that I have to put trust in this young man. And I think Bryce, it seeded his trust because you could just tell more and more. And again, the last game of the season, I think they just opened the whole playbook and let me see if you can do it.
Yeah.
I honestly, the play calling was not like that the whole season. I literally was like, I'm going to open the whole page because you know how people have just one sheet. He opened both pages. I'm going to have the play calls. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah. And it turned into the only time a Panthers quarterback has ever thrown for 3 touchdowns and rushed for 2 in a game. It was extremely efficient and scored 44 points to end the game, right?
Correct.
Like, so to me, when I see that coupled with your take on, hey, man, this guy might have some better stuff than we even thought, I'm about to jump out the window. I'm the first person. I'm about to jump out the window, Doug, because they already caught. Like, look, I know what they say about me out there, so I ain't. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? And look, I've admitted it. I'm not driving the Bryce bus, but I'm definitely sitting in the jump seat, right beside the driver. I don't know who the driver is in our space.
You know that back seat that you got right behind? I'm sitting directly right there.
Right there, right behind him. In the handicap section and all, right? Because and I don't know, I can't tell you who in our space is the driver. I've been pegged as that, but hey, look, I'm all in. I think this guy has the capability. If what we saw the last 3 games of this past season is what he's trajecting to be, he'll be a top 5 quarterback in the league. He's top 5 already. Yeah, that's a top 5 quarterback.
You're not gonna have no argument for me again.
Yeah,
I don't say much because again, it gets old, and that's the reason why you'll never see me do. I did one video on it was put up or shut up for Bryce. It was like all eyes on Bryce. I didn't do any other videos because again, I don't want to be a repetitive content creator in our space talking about Bryce every single day. It gets old again.
It can get there.
It's mock drafts, free agency, NFL news. Again, he's our quarterback. Now the thing is, I would say a better conversation would be, how does he match up with C.J. Stroud going into 2025? Anthony Richardson, the news is just coming out now that they're about to bring another quarterback in because they don't think he can last 17 games. He doesn't have the leadership skills. Will Levis. Are they gonna draft? I just scratched my. Are they gonna draft another quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft? Then you can translate it over to Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix. Yes, I understand 2 of those quarterbacks made the playoff, but at the same time, the Carolina Panthers, before Dan Morgan, had a problem in Scott Fitterer and having a revolving door of coaches. Now you have a head coach and a GM that's on the same page in a division that anybody can take the seat. Now let's see what happens. Whenever, again, Dan Morgan has said, we don't have to worry about our quarterback. We have our quarterback. I know the issues that we need to address. We have a problem on the defensive side of the ball. That's where I say I'm reserved because, again, he told me, I heard. Now I just want to see the plan fall into tuition. And then let's see.
All right, ISO on me for a minute. Check it out. You just said all them names. Because I'm old enough to remember some people that was out there talking crazy. Hey man, Anthony Richardson. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, man, he should have been the pick. My man ain't played a full season yet, right? So he out of here. Get him gone, right?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, Will Levis out of here. C.J. Stroud, the scouting report. What was it? Struggles under pressure. We saw it this year when the pressure started breaking down.
You saw it bad at the end of the season.
Bad in the playoffs.
From the Baltimore Raven game to the end of the season, you saw
it. Yes. So all that stuff on the scouting report. Here's what I find fascinating. The thing that Bryce Young excelled in this, like during his resurgence, is the very thing you saw trip up guys that are in those top conversations. The pressure that got on Patrick Mahomes, seeing ghost, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like seeing people in places where they're not necessarily where they're not at, right? And you're missing. Right. Like now, granted, rhythm is everything, and yes, the pressure that they were getting on him was unbelievable. Stepping up in the pockets. You know, when you start getting hit and you get hit early, you start either bailing out of pockets or stepping up in the pockets that you shouldn't step up in, and it throws you off, right? And so similarly, Josh Allen, what did Spags do at the end of the game? Disguised that blitz, sent that blitz to him. Blitz. Yep. Yeah.
And you had to read it.
And what did Bryce do? That's exactly, you just said it. You had to read it. So that thing that his superpower that we heard all this stuff about is starting to show itself, because it's like, look, Spags sent a similar look to him. What did he do? Real quick hitch, dump it off to Adam Thielen. Boom, first down on a big fourth down.
The perfect example for that, and I know I'm not going to talk about Spag. I'm going to talk about the team that Spag just had to go against, but not on the same side of the ball. The Eagles defense.
Yeah.
When Bryce's his arm sleeve got torn. Yes. Bryce didn't just fall down. He still delivered the ball down the field.
Sure did.
So again, you have to be able to recognize the defense. And again, they said he's a processor. He's a quick processor. That was one of his gems, the reason why the Carolina Panthers should draft him. And it shows more and more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to do this real quick, because I know this is the Bryce take that we're doing, but I'm going to ask a quick question, and we'll go into the next take in a second. What was your take on the speaking of when you talked about him being able to process? You know, I heard a lot of people talk about like, well, man, I thought he was this great processor. Like, this was a lot of the conversation last year. And I'm like, do y'all realize, like, do you know how bad this situation was? Like, this situation was awful for any quarterback that would have came into it, right? Is it possible that C.J. Stroud would have had a little bit more success here? Maybe. But I could argue in some respects it might have been worse. You know what I'm saying? Because of Bryce's ability to be able to evade pressure. What I'm asking, though, is this. Based on what we saw happen with Bryce last year, what is your take on what Cam Newton said to Travis Hunter in that interview?
You got me, because I don't. You got two different quarterbacks with two different egos. Mm-hmm. If you want me to go deeper, John, I'll go deeper.
Hey, man, look. We potting, bro.
Okay. I'll say this. I love both players. Mm-hmm. And it's me not sugarcoating at all. People have to understand who Cam, I forgot his middle name, Newton is. Jarrell Newton is. When he went to UFF, he was an alpha male before he even made it there. Mm-hmm. He had to get humbled by Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer when he went there. Then he goes to Blaine and does something that has never really happened outside of his 1 year at Blaine University out here in Texas. Took over JUCO college football.
Yeah.
Then he goes with Gus Malzahn at Auburn.
Yeah,
and does the unthinkable.
Yeah.
1 year and leads them to a national championship.
And calls his own shot. Calls a shot in the game, by the way. Remember that on the goal line. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep. Then here in Carolina, we already have an alpha male in Steve Smith. All the way back from Jake Delhomme. Steve Smith is a veteran now. He's a goated Panther. Then you bring in two alpha males when you draft Cam Newton. You know what a beta fish does, right, John? You can't have two beta fish in the same tank, right? That's what happens.
They'll eat each other.
They're going to eat each other. One's going to die. And it makes sense now why we had to trade Steve Smith away, and you would not trade Cam, because Cam, that'd be dumb.
Yeah.
Again, I think people will still be laughing at the Carolina Panthers now. but it was almost us fans trying to force a relationship when you pull the veil back and you know you had two alpha males clinging from the start. So for me to comment, it was an ego thing. Cam's always had an ego, but it didn't surprise me. And was it right? Absolutely not, because again, you're gonna get backlash. That's like me calling you a terrible podcast. You're not gonna think people are gonna report it back, and it's gonna be a tearing apart a Panther fan following you and myself. So again, I sometimes Cam thinks before he speaks, and I will say that, and that can come back and bite you in the rear end, because again, you can't take something back now.
Right. Hey, for the record, Dougie, I'm with all the smoke, dog. I'm big smoke dog. Big smoke dog out here. They know what time it is with me. Anytime, look, I don't show it a lot, but I promise you, I'm with it all. No, but I'm saying, all right.
Hey, when you drop that, I already know them takes coming.
Hey, but man, all right. So I'm only gonna touch on this briefly. Pause. To me, I didn't like it only because it's not necessarily rooted in truth. And I know some might be like, well, what do you mean? They were 2-14 the year before. Yeah, but before that, they were 8-8 and 12-4. You know what I'm saying? So there's still guys on that team that were on that 12-4 roster, and that 8-8 roster, for them to scrap to even get to 8-8 that year, with Jake Delhomme having his second Tommy John situation and Matt Moore being relief, right, was a feat in and of itself, right? So, and you got to think, this is a division that has the now, at that time, winning Super Bowl champion New Orleans Saints. You know what I'm saying? That's a division that just drafted Matt Ryan, right? Or was it? Yeah. They had drafted Matt Ryan. That's right. Well, the year prior, I think this was his second year.
Prior, I understood what you were saying.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So, like, it's not like it's the easiest division to be playing in, for that matter, right? And you got, it's like, it's dogs in that division this year. You know what I'm saying? And in the whole conference, not just the division, but the conference in general. So for you to finish and fight to 8-8, that is not a losing mentality. Bro, you came into the league with guys like Smitty. You had the only 2,000-yard backs at that point.
You had Greg Olsen that we went and got. You had
Jeremy Shockey. Yes. Yeah.
Then you
Jordan
had an
Gross.
line. You had an established line that was not a top 10, but it was a top 15 unit.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. That helped you catapult you. And here was my biggest issue with it, Doug, was like, fam, when you're drafted number 1 overall, because he said, man, I wanted to win now. So do we. That's why we got you. Like, and I understand that it don't necessarily cultivate. Like, I think a lot of what Cam is going through is because, number one, the Panthers did him dirty at the end of his career. They did him super dirty. And two, I
said that in your other video.
Yeah.
When I was in the chat talking about it. Yeah.
A lot of this is just that spilling out. Like, because you and I think Nakari Leggett was saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of this is just that old, like, I'm just still really upset with the Panthers and how this whole thing shaped out or whatever. But the idea that you came into a full locker room full of losers, nah, fam. Like, they drafted you to come in and be a force multiplier to lift everybody up. And you did. It took a little bit longer for you to get there, you know what I'm saying? But you eventually got to the place where you wanted to be.
I'm going to make this point, and it goes into Bryce. It's a difference when you're a quarterback away, when you have an established culture, and you draft Cam Newton, and then people think you're a quarterback away and you draft Bryce Young and you go get a new coach that did not want him. That's two different things.
Talk about it.
Because a lot of people said, oh, we're a quarterback away. Bryce is supposed to take us to the promised land. How was he supposed to do that? And the coach didn't even want him there.
Not only that, Doug, and it's so fascinating you say that, bro. I was telling somebody this the other day. I said, man, actually, I said this on the pod before. I'll repeat it. I don't mind. When you see, it's not that he just didn't want him, but you had a coach. Go back and look at those pictures of Frank Reich when he was at that pro day of C.J. Stroud and how he had his phone out and all that kind of stuff. Why am I so excited? Because I only got to coach Andrew Luck for 1 year, and I got what could possibly be the closest thing to him staring me right in the face. This ain't even necessarily about Bryce. Bryce might be great, but what I want and what I'm used to is right there.
Correct.
That same energy did not. If you go watch him at Bryce's pro day, he was there. He was present in the moment with everybody else. Could not be more different.
It switched.
Yes.
David Temper and Nicole Temper were the ones that were enamored with Bryce Young and not Frank Wright. So it switched.
Yep. So do I think that when he finally got on board, that he was like, all right, well, Bryce is our quarterback? Yes. But I don't think it was because of choice. That's obvious, right? It was because, well, we drafted him, so he kind of has to be, right? And so, like you said, but and even then, man, you talk about being a quarterback away. The team that finished 7-10 and that team that Bryce got drafted to couldn't be more different. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Deontay Foreman was gone. Steve Wilkes is gone. Al Holcomb, who changed the defensive philosophy, he's gone. So now we go reverting back to the 3-4 again when we hadn't figured that out yet. You know what I'm saying? So it couldn't be more different. But either way, man. All right. On to the next topic. So you had a chance to go to the Shrine Bowl. And I watched a lot of your coverage, man. I got to give you kudos, man. We definitely love to give flowers around here. I'm going to give you your flowers because, man, listen, that coverage of the Shrine Bowl was incredible. I saw the interview with Bucky Brooks. I saw a lot of your on-the-field coverage. I think you even did one with, was it Darren Bates?
Coach Bates.
Yeah,
hey, shout out to Coach Bates, man. Yes, sir.
Hilarious, man. I watch Raw Room all the time. So tell me about your experience there, man. Like, what was your biggest takeaway when you went to the Shrine Bowl and what you saw and how it can benefit us moving forward?
Us as the Panthers or us as content creators?
I would say us as content creators because you kind of set the bar with what you're doing right now. And I feel like you are pushing this culture forward. You know, it's guys like, you know, a Real Ball Watcher, it's Dunk. Y'all really boots on the ground. What was your biggest takeaway from just your experience being at the Shrine Bowl and like just all that you got to do and all that you got to see?
So, first day I went, it opened Friday. Again, content, this is what I love. This is my 9 to 5 people. I what I do on Wassup Doug is my passion. Me doing slides, me doing content for you guys. This is what I want to bring to you guys. So I missed the first 2 days. I made it there Sunday. And when I walked in, it was so many executives. I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, I got nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. I got nervous. And I had to have a talk with myself and be like, this is what you wanted. This is what you always wanted to do. This is the next step, what we said in 2025. This is what we're going to do. So got my credential, walked around. Also, shout out to this. You can't see him, but Freddie Knighton, he was our quarterback at Arkansas State. He's now the quarterbacks coach at assistant quarterbacks coach of Cincinnati Bengals. So I told Freddie, I was like, hey, Freddie, I'm here. He was like, bet. He said, I got second practice. Don't leave. So that kind of made me like, okay, let's get to work. So walked around. Just wanted to fill it out. I mean, it was so packed Sunday because Sunday was the last day before everybody went down to Mobile for the Senior Bowl. So when I say it was packed, it was packed. So I just walked around. I saw a couple of Panther emblems on people's shirts, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can see Dan Morgan. So I didn't see Dan right away, and I asked one of the executives, I said, or one of the scouts, I said, hey, is Dan here? Yeah, he's here, but he's on the other end. So I walked around a little bit, and lo and behold, he was right in the corner. He wasn't like right on the field, but he was kind of leaning back, paying attention to cornerbacks and wide receivers. And I said, what's going on, Mr. Morgan? You don't got to call me that. What's your name? You know, we spoke. That's and I told him I was a content creator. And I said, can I interview him? He stop sign. I got to talk to the media. I said, okay, cool. So when I'm about to walk off, he was like, can I ask you a couple of questions? He basically filtered me out to see if I was legit. And again, he doesn't know this is my very first media credential. So the question that I asked him was, going into year 2, Mr. Morgan, or I said, Dan, how do you feel you're more prepared in year 2? You have your coach, you have your quarterback. We had a lot of injuries on the defensive side. We need to address the defensive side. How would you attack year 2, and how comfortable are you in being a GM of the Carolina Panthers in year 2? And he kind of looked and did this, and he put a smirk on his face. And he was like, I like that question. He was like, just know we're going to be aggressive. And if you're going to be at the hotel, you can interview me at the hotel. Unfortunately, he left early and they had players meetings. So he had to head down to Mobile. So that was on Sunday. Tuesday, I didn't make it Tuesday. I had to go back to work. So I made it Tuesday. That's when you have Bucky Brooks, NFL Network came out. Also, again, I was able to talk to Coach Bates at the end. Again, shout out to Coach Bates. I told him I can't wait to training camp. We definitely going to, link up again and all that. But on Tuesday, I was able to talk to Bucky Brooks. And we had conversations. You guys saw the interview. The excitement, like I said, the national media knows what Dave Canales is building. Again, it looked shaky. He literally said it looked shaky in the beginning. But then you saw Bryce take, again, another step going from that benching to now starting the way we finished the season. Now the ball is in Dan Morgan's court. And he said in that interview, he said, what Dan Morgan can do to take this team to the next level, the ball is in his court, from free agency to the draft. So for me, like I said, it was I want any content creator, again, if you got questions, please hit me up. Again, you, John, if you be like, Doug, I'm coming down, I would cancel my plans to go to the Senior Bowl if somebody else comes down. But like I said, my plan is to go to the Senior Bowl because, again, I've seen the Shrine. Now I want to go to the Senior Bowl. And then possibly next year we're going to go to the draft. But, again, I want anybody to get the opportunity, that exposure. It was great. Again, I mean, you are going to be kind of nervous because you're around executives, but they're regular people. They're regular people just like you and I. That's dope. And, again, like I said, I appreciate – everybody I was able to interview. Like I said, my number one favorite target is Taj Brooks. And I was telling John that behind the scenes, like, shout out to my guy Taj from Texas Tech. I'm hoping, I mean, if he gets drafted by the Panthers, I'm just letting y'all know. Me and him locked in. Y'all gonna get hella time. I'm just letting y'all know. Yeah. We locked in, man. But, yeah, like I said, I mean, just the players making you feel like you're established. It was just great, and it was reassuring that this is what you want to do. Only thing we can do is build from it now. So,
right. All right. So, with that being said, when you talk about what you saw there at the Shrine Bowl, that takes me to another segue, right? So, based on what you saw there, we'll start. I know free agency, it looks like that's the first time, but we'll start with draft. Okay. What do you think the biggest, like if you were to ask Dan Morgan this question, how do you think he would answer? What is the number one need? Because at pick number 8, there's so many different choices, right? What, in your opinion, do you think is the number one need immediately at pick 8?
I'm going to tell you from the horse's mouth, and then from Mike K. Shout out Mike K. with the Charlotte Observer. Okay. It's interior D-line or edge. And don't be surprised if they double dip in the draft. Do not be surprised. Again, I'll repeat it. If they double dip in the draft at either interior D lineman or edge, early.
With that being said, who would you take at 8 if it was you?
Are we saying that the board falls, or we're just being honest?
I mean, you could say if the board falls in a specific way, that'd be okay.
I'll do Carter as the number one, but he's not going to be there.
Right.
So for me, it's going to be Mason Graham. Okay. And I also like Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. I can't wait to see how he does at the NFL Combine. Let me pull my list up. I'm going to tell you another one that people are sleeping on. Kenneth Grant, the tag team partner for Mason Graham.
From Michigan, yeah.
From Michigan. That would be right in my area of 3 players if we stay there or we trade back as well in the first round for interior D lineman. Now, if we're talking edge, I do like Mike Green a lot. And like I gave the point, we really fell in love with Xavier Legette based off of his Senior Bowl and his reps. And Carolina Panthers, lo and behold, have already said Mike Green was one of their standouts that they saw at the Senior Bowl. Then you got Cal Kennard out of South Carolina, Shamon Stewart out of Texas A&M. I'm just gonna give you 3 because but one of my favorites is Jerry Ivey out of Ole Miss.
Yeah, a lot of people like him. Yeah,
42 tackles, 6 sacks, and I think he had 2 forced fumbles. 6'6", 238.
Mammoth.
Love it. Like I said, that's a kid that I like again, and that's not at 8, but that's just at that position of double dipping if you see something like that.
I'm like you. A lot of those names that you just mentioned, I'm a big fan of. One name that I've asked a few different questions to a few different people that really do this, yourself, and I'll ask this included because you do this, right? Why? What is it about James Pierce that kind of pushes people away? Is it because, especially in our space, right? Because here's my biggest concern with a James Pierce. Like going into this year, nobody was checking for Abdul Carter as an edge. Why?
Correct.
Because this was his first year as an edge, right? As an off-ball linebacker, Abdul Carter would have been a first round pick, but would he be considered first overall pick? Heck no. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Carter,
Correct.
I think, would have been a higher, as a more hybrid type of player. Jalen Walker, my apologies. Jalen Walker would have been more considered that as an overall, like, hybrid type of player. So what is it about James Pierce that you think is, like, turning a lot of Panther fans and even some other teams away from him?
I would say this. It didn't turn away. It's just how the board fell because I did a couple of mocks. I'll put it out there. We have a members only video over at Wassup Doug. We did for our members only. We did 3 different mocks, and in one of those mocks, I did take James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. I think for me, it's just how he does in meetings, how he does in combine, and the tape doesn't lie. Again, it was kind of inconsistent a little bit in the beginning, but again, for me, I'm not opposed of getting James Pierce based off of how he does in the combine. And I also think the Panthers are going to do their homework and invite him to a top 30 visit because he is a top caliber DN. But again, it was the inconsistencies from his last year in 24 23-24 going to 24-25. That's where I think the problem lies. But I'm not opposed to drafting him. I just like Mike Green. And I did say Mike Green was nothing against James Pierce, but I want to see what he does at the combine. That's what I really want to do. I really want to see what he does at the combine.
I know a lot of people would be like, yo, why do you keep beating this dead horse, John? Pause. But the reason is because I can remember 2 years that I was really high on a player. And when I look at what those players have done now, when I'm high on a player, like I just ask questions like, you know what, James Pierce might be great, but he might not be the best fit for us at this moment because of what our needs are, right? But there are 2 players specifically that I feel like if we would have drafted, does that mean that we are what any of the great NFC teams are right now? I don't know, but I think that we'd have fared better. One was when we drafted JC, I was big on Micah Parsons. 2 was the year before that when was it the same year or the year before? It might have been the same year. It was the same year the year before. Nick Bolton, right? When Nick Bolton was drafted, linebacker out of Mizzou. I was huge, or Iowa, I think. Did Nick Bolton go to Iowa or Mizzou? It was one or the other. But
I was looking that name up.
Yeah, I was big on Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is a linebacker that plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. As a rookie, returned a Jalen Hurts fumble for a touchdown that really, changed that game. Like that's basically in my opinion, that was the play that won it for Kansas City back then. Which shows you, man, that I don't know what it is about Jalen Hurts versus Kansas City, man, but he shows up like big time, versus them, especially in Super Bowl. So that's neither here nor there. But like you, I am big on Mike Green. I think Mike Green could be a really good player for us. But I think the most important personally, let me ask you this first. Would you be interested in trading back?
Yes. I did it in my mock draft 1.0. I traded back with the Indianapolis Colts and got Mike Green.
Still, wow. How many rounds did you do in your mock?
7.
You did full 7? You want to do one? You want to run it?
We can.
Bet, because I already got it set up. I'm on top of it.
Sir.
All right, look. So we on the clock first here. Do you want to immediately trade back or you want to go after somebody? Like, is there somebody that you want to target?
See how the board falls.
All right. So let me just make a little quick adjustment real quick so we make sure we got the whole screen in there. And let's see. That should be.
I can see it on my end.
Okay. On my end, it's kind of. There we go. Now it's better. All right. Perfect. Okay. Here we go. So let's see. I'm going to hit draft. So obviously Cam, Travis, Tet, Mason, Abdul, Shador, Malachi Starks. So who's on the board? Ashton Genty, Will Johnson, Will Campbell, James Pierce, Luther, Mike Green. So you got a lot of ways to go. You want to trade or you want to stay pat and take one guy?
So good. Look at the trade. You might going to have like San Francisco will be one. The Bears. So what I did with the Bears, I just did this one today. I did the 10th, the 40, the 10th and the 41 for 8. And then I gave them like 112 or 140.
All right. 12. Looks like it's going to take a little bit more. 112 and 140 would only get us 36% there. I think if you – go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
Well, I'm wondering in this scenario, would you have to give up maybe a second next year or a third?
So do this. Take the 41 off and take the 72 and get them the 140.
There you go.
Take the 112 off.
112 off?
Yeah,
okay,
take 112 off.
85%. So we give them the 8. We get the 10 and the 72. They get the 8 and the 140.
Yep.
All right. Trade accepted. Here we go.
You only moved 2 spots down.
Still got big-time players on the board. Now, I know a lot of people – I've been seeing different mock drafts, floating around. Some people are big on Jalen Walker. He's still on the board. Some people are saying, Will Johnson. I've seen people compare – Jalen Walker is fascinating to me because some people will say, like I had a guy text me earlier today, and he's a dude that watches film. He's not a content creator, but he's just one of those boots on the ground guys. And he's like, man, I'm not saying he's Micah, but I see a lot of similarities. And I'm like, are you kidding? And he's like, I'm telling you, man, just watch more of the tape. And to me, Jalen Walker is one of those guys that when I watch his film, he doesn't like fly off the page to me, but I feel like because he can play multiple positions, right? To me, it feels like he's one of those just junkyard dog dudes that you get that eventually will look back like 2 years from now and be like, man, I'm so glad we drafted that dude. Because
this reminds me of what we did. Well, not we, but what the Jacksonville Jaguars did when they pulled a rabbit out the hat and they got the other boy from Georgia.
Trevon Walker.
Yes. And now he's finally came into his own. Yeah, it didn't happen right away, but in 2 years, you saw what happened now. And the one thing that you said, you didn't just say a dog, you said a junkyard dog. And that's like a dog with multiple personalities, and I think that's what Dan Morgan wants.
Yeah. And I feel like, because I look at him, and I could see a couple of years from now, like, let's just say, because, like, here's a great example. And this is what I hope is going to happen as far as all these coaching changes are concerned. One thing I feel like Philly excels at more than anything else is personnel identification. They're great at the draft, yes. But also personnel identification, right? So here's the example. Zach Bond turns out to be the number 1 linebacker in the league this year, takes over that spot, which has pretty much been held by Fred Warner, guys like Dre Greenlaw, over the years, Roquan Smith. This year it was Zach. Well, last year he was a situational pass rusher in New Orleans. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So, recognizing like, hey, you might not be that good right here, but man, you are super talented over here. Let's try you out right there. And it's like he thrives in that.
Let me give you this example.
Yeah, go ahead.
Look at Frankie Louisville when he went to Washington. Somebody asked me this exact question.
That's right.
And Don't Live earlier or this week. When you have a Bobby Wagner right beside Frankie Louisville when he plays in his natural position in the type of scheme you want, what happened? He's an all-pro.
Yep. And I mean, truthfully, you know what frustrated me so bad about that, Doug? Man, we was so close, man. We was so close. If we keep things in tow, I'm a firm believer that when you're building a company, right, you establish core beliefs. And if you get a moment to see like, okay, something that we're doing here is working really well, let's make that a staple for our core beliefs. It's just one of many, but it's one of our core beliefs, and we don't deviate from it. To me, I feel like a lot of the heartache of the Carolina Panthers would have started to dissipate if Steve Wilkes would have been given a real shot at being a head coach, because what he was able to do with some of those guys that we had, Burns, Louvu, I think wasn't Gilmore on the team at a point? You know what I'm saying? Or
Gilmore was on the team at a point, yes.
Right. I think if you give him the opportunity to let all of this develop and the injuries to stop, man, we just had so many dudes on this roster, man. It's like we were close, but you can't.
That's the reason why I don't blame coach. I blame Scott Fitterer.
Yeah,
I don't literally say his name, and I'm saying it now because it's old, but it was Scott Fitterer.
Mm-hmm.
That was the problem. Yeah, you can say coach, but Scott Fitterer was the issue. Kicking money down the road, not keeping key free agents, making bad decisions in the draft.
I'm with that. Yeah, I'm with that. So when we talk about Jalen Walker, we'll keep the ball moving here in a second. It's possible that Jalen Walker may be a really good pass rusher, or an edge rusher for us. But what if they truly identify this is what I want to say as far as would it be an overdraft? Would it be a loss? If they say in camp, man, he's good at setting the edge, he's a good player. Not necessarily a great player, but he's a good player. But my God, we moved him to off-ball linebacker, and he might be the next Roquan Smith. My goodness. What do you do?
Again, it's a player on the board that reports have come out Carolina's infatuated with Will Johnson. So, again, it's a tough thing. But, again, you have to know the board. You have to know the players.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know how the board is going to play out. You got to know, again, the draft does not stop in the first round, people.
That's right.
You got to know how to draft. You got to know the talent. You got to know what target points certain players are going to be drafted at.
Mm-hmm.
Again, PFF is just a tool we use. You got to know your players.
That's right.
Again, people are trying to aim for A's and all this and that. That don't mean nothing because, again, you get an A in a mock draft, but then whenever these players come to play, they wet the bed and whenever that ball snapped in week 1 in September.
That's right.
So, again, you got to know your value. It has to match up with your scheme, and you got to know what you're doing. So I'm not opposed to it, either one for Johnson or going with the guy out of Georgia. But, again, it just based on how the board falls.
All right. So in this case, this is how it fell to us. Who do you want to take?
I'm not opposed to taking Will Johnson. And it's a reason because I know names that are going to fall later down the road.
Mm-hmm. I'm not either. I think this kid has all-world potential. I think he could be Sauce Gardner-like good, right? There are many people who believe that he's a better true corner in this draft than even Travis Hunter. Now, whether or not that turns out to be true is something entirely, different. But if that's the belief and it's more BPA, I don't think it's a losing scenario. Here's what I would ask, though. Based on the productivity that we got from Mike Jackson last year, are you drafting him to be a day one starter? Are you drafting him to potentially be a nickel? Right? What are you doing with Mike? Are you re-signing Mike or are you rolling with the rookie? How would you handle that?
So I've been told that they're going to try to re-sign Mike. He's not going to cost a lot. He wants to come back to Carolina. Okay. So for me, that is a point. But I think Mike Jackson needs competition, meaning that he needs somebody to push him. Competition is your best friend.
Absolutely.
It makes everybody better. You did say nickel. I think if he does play nickel, that helps Chi Smith-Wade with competition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at BPA because if Mike Jack goes down, I don't want there to be another issue where we go get people off the street that cannot come in and play. I'm not opposed to BPA.
That's a good point. And it gives him a chance to come in off of an injury and develop, and not be forced into action and have another Brooks-style situation happen all over again.
Correct.
All right. So, Will Johnson it is. All right. Now, this is what I don't like. Boy, oh, my gosh. From 8 or whatever, if we move down to – now we're in the 40s because of the trade. But, yeah.
But guess what, though? We have 58, but then we have back-to-back. We got 72 and 74.
Yeah. All right, so that's 18, 17, 16. So I see some, familiar names coming off the board. Jack Besh, somebody I like. Jalen Walker.
At TCU.
Yeah, falling all the way down here. Now, this is where it gets interesting, Now, there's a player that I'm going to come up with that I'll show you in a second, but I'm not going to do it yet because we got back-to-back picks at 72 and 74. Actually, I am going to do it because if I don't do it now, I feel like he might not be on the board. Based on PFF, there's a chance that he may be. Let me just take a look real quick.
Who is it, an interior D lineman?
Yep. Okay, he's here. All right.
Jordan Phillips?
Nope. Okay. So I asked Real Ball Watcher this, and I'm going to ask you this too. Remember what I said, and this was before the Super Bowl, right? So Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, Brandon Graham. Now it's rotation time. So I just hit you in the mouth with Milton Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to deal with this.
Darian Walker?
Deion Walker. Have you seen this guy?
I saw what he was able to do at the Senior Bowl.
6'6", 3'4". He is a absolute freak. Is he a guy that you're bringing in to be your day one nose tackle starter? No. But
he's going to be a rotational.
Yes, but he's one of those guys that when you start to rotate, you don't have a drop off. When Ashawn comes off the field, now you got to deal with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to me, that's a lot. Now, I know that people say that, well, there's better players, there may be better options. My thing is, though, is like, yo, if I'm an offensive guard or a center and you rotate a guy that's been beating me to death in Ashawn Robinson, and now I got to go up against, yes, a 6'6", 340. And this is his, like, premature body, right? This isn't his filled out NFL training regimen frame.
You see what age is. He's only 20. He'll be 21 when the season starts.
Yes. In my head, would it be a bit of a reach right here? Possibly, but I'd be afraid of him not being on the board with those two back-to-back picks. Now, there are other players out there, but this is one of those ones where it's like, yo, if you're really trying to have trench warfare, it starts right here. Because I think that they're one of my biggest needs for them personally. I think the two needs, safety and nose tackle, right, for defense. I think they're going to try to – I really believe this. I think even over somebody potentially like T. Higgins, who they could go out and get as an X receiver, I think Milton Williams is going to be who they target as their first, like, as their big money person they go out and try to sign.
So I would say this again: do not be surprised how aggressive. Again, it was repeated to me several times. You saw how aggressive they were whenever we got two guards in the same day, and people were like, "Whoa!" Do not be surprised again if they double dip and be the same type of aggressive. Or bring that aggressiveness on day one of free agency.
Got you. All right, so I gave my spiel. Who would you like to take? This is your draft, bud.
Go ahead and go to DN. I already know he's there.
All right.
And I brought him up earlier.
Let's see, let's go to edge. Who is it?
He's right there.
Jared Ivey.
He's right there. I mean, if you want to pull the specs up, if people want to see him. When I say, like I said, I did my draft. When you see blue across the board, that's elite.
Yep.
You can look at the same thing like John just said. His first look, he's 6'6", 238. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's 238.
Yep. 285.
No, 285. 285. That's.
Let me ask you a question. Does it? And I know this is probably the wrong question to ask because I don't know if he's transferred or where he played prior. Is there a bit of? Do you have any pause at the fact that he is a senior? Was he off?
Because he transferred. He did transfer in.
Okay. Where did he come from?
I can give you that real quick. Yeah, he transferred in. I know that for a fact. I do know Jared Ivey transferred. I want to say it was another SEC school, so give me 1 second. I just got it pulled up. Georgia Tech. No, he transferred from Ole Miss after playing at Georgia Tech.
Okay.
So, ACC.
That makes sense. Had a good season. A really good season. Yep. All right, let's take him.
So this is where I was going to get into your spiel about Deion Walker. Because he should be available. He should be.
Let's see. Yep. I think he's available. There he is.
See? So that's what I said. If you scroll, so what, he's at 92. You got your corner, you got your edge.
Oh my
Now I
gosh.
would say this. Look. Hey, I'm telling you, I'm not opposed to getting Eminem Ward now, and then
Yeah.
go ahead and getting your pick at Deion Walker next. So
Yeah.
you can go ahead and put it in.
Hey man, I'm gonna tell you, and this is PFF stuff, so this is post Senior Bowl stuff too. Now this isn't post combine or pro days, but PFF has been updated, and it's fascinating because depending on who you ask, your man in particular, Bucky Brooks, has him as the number one safety in this draft. Yeah, ball hawk, big time.
Because he likes him and Xavier Watts, but Xavier Watts is going off the board very, very fast.
Yes. So I'll be shocked if he's here. I'm also shocked to see Tez here as well. But, all right, so you want to draft Nick?
Yep, go ahead and go Nick, and then you can get Deion Walker.
Right behind him. Still there. Would you consider, let's see, Quinshon Judkins? I understand we don't really have a humongous need for, well, actually.
We do. We only got one running back on the team, but not right now. That's too high. Because, again, I need that defense to be addressed.
Yeah. All right. So where's he at? Let's see. There he is. Deion Walker. Boom. All right. You know how PFF gonna trip? They're gonna be like, you over.
That's something I hate. Whenever they want you to choose somebody, they'll say you give us a C or D and all that. Like again, I'm drafting off a need.
Right. All right. I just paused it for a second just so it can go a little faster. Man, two of my favorites off the board. I figured they would still be there. So there's two guys that I like specifically. I love what I saw this year. And, when I had an interview with Captain Munnerlyn, and Captain told a story. Yeah. And he told a fascinating story about how Ron Rivera came to him 2 years into his career and told him, like, hey, man, you got to move to nickel. And he's like, I'm not a nickel. I am a corner. I can follow your best guys out there. He's like, no. I think you would be excellent at nickel. And I feel like two guys that just went off the board right here, if you draft one of these guys, I feel like you can probably get them. And they went back to back, and that's Melo Dotson and Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
I
saw both of those at the Shrine game.
Yeah.
Man. Like I said, I drafted them. I've drafted one in my mock draft for my members only. And you'll hear the notes that I said. Dotson is every bit of 1A and Kobe Bryant is 1B. You can't go wrong with either or.
Neither one.
You can't go wrong with either or. Kobe Bryant reminds me of a taller Dante Jackson. He's very long. Needs to bulk up a little bit, but he had 3 picks altogether during the Shrine Bowl practices and had a pick per day for practice. Didn't even play in the Shrine game because they basically told him they've seen enough.
Yeah. So there's a good chance that he'll jump up probably a little bit higher than where he is right now. But here's what would be my selling point. The same thing. Okay, hear me out on this, right? So I'm gonna go a little bit off the path for a second. I told a buddy of mine this the other day. Another gem that Cap dropped in that interview, I asked him about Jeremy Chin. I said, man, why do you think Ejiro Evero basically put Jeremy Chin in jail and not really let him rock? He says, well, I'm going to be honest with you. He said, and I've trained with Chin. He said, so I'm not saying this as, disrespectful, but he kind of got exposed a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like his coverage ability is, not up to par. I said, Cap, I have literally seen, I heard this before, and then I saw it for myself. I saw TD go on national TV on NFL Network and say that he was pleading with Jeremy Chin, please move to linebacker. And he was like, I'm telling you, man, you got everything that it takes to bulk up and become, and most
That's
of his,
what he needed to do.
Yeah, his best work came in the box when he was with us. You know what I'm saying? So to me, the selling point, Jeremy Chin's a free agent. If I'm re-signing him anywhere else, or let's just say hypothetically I was trying to bring him back to Carolina, the selling point is Zach Bond. Bro, look what Zach was just able to do. You will become a superstar if you bet on yourself and do something like this because you will be excellent at it. That would be my selling point to someone like Kobe Bryant or Melo Dotson. Hey, man, are you talented enough to be a number one corner? Absolutely. But who do you want to be? A backup on a roster behind J.C. Horn or Cooper DeJean? Because Cooper DeJean could have came into the league.
That versatility and being able to play. And I think I asked I didn't ask him, but a lot of players I was asking that I did defense or
Mm-hmm.
wide receiver, I was asking, can you play outside of your normal position?
Right.
And everybody's gonna say yes because they want that exposure. They don't know who you are as media.
Right.
But when it comes to time and it's behind that closed door, can you do it? You can
Right.
say you can do it, but then the film's gonna have to show it as well.
And look, I know that part of the Cooper DeJean fanfare is because he's a white corner, right? But at the same time, man, it's also because he a dog, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. Can you imagine somebody as good as a Kobe or a Melo Dotson being like, you know what? Primarily, especially 3-4 defenses, most defenses, because of how pass happy the league is now, you're not going to be like on the bench a lot. Most of the defensive set is going to be a 4-2-5, right? So you're going to see a lot of time. You might not be out there on the island with Jay, but you're going to see a lot of time, man. And you're going to see impactful time. And you're going to have an opportunity to really get like after the ball and be a ball hawk in a major way. You know what I'm saying? So nickel corner is not like a death sentence for who would want to be a number one corner in today's NFL because the game has changed so much. What do you say to that?
No, I agree. Like I said, again, with those two, again, you have to have versatility. One thing, just look at the corner we got in Chai Smith-Wade.
Mm-hmm.
He can play outside. We asked him to play nickel. He literally learned how to play nickel during the Senior Bowl.
That's right.
And that's the reason why we drafted him to be the future nickel and basically take over Troy Hill's position of being the future nickel at that position for the Carolina Panthers. So you have to have versatility. Ooh, I see somebody there. Ooh.
Yeah, that being said, who you got?
All right, so we got what? We got a corner. We got an edge. What else did we get? Interior D lineman and a safety.
Mm-hmm.
So right here at 109, I want you to look at a player that I was able to interview, Elijah Roberts. You can pull his profile up. I want you to see it. It's going to blow your freaking...
Blues. Edge setter, run defensive grade. That's what you need, man.
So I'm not opposed because we have 3 picks right behind. Mm-hmm. You can go ahead and get Elijah Roberts here. But if you see somebody else that you're not opposed to, you can.
I'm with it.
All right, then look at can you add corner, linebacker, and tackle?
Tackle. Hang on one second. Let me move one thing real quick.
Okay.
So I can get to this point on the screen. Corner, linebacker, and offensive tackle. There you go.
So I say this because a lot of people have to understand Taylor Moton's going to get extended, but he doesn't have a lot of years behind him.
I heard you talking about this the other day. I like this. Go ahead.
Why not go ahead and get your future tackle where he's already grooming and blooming your future? You don't want to, address the need whenever it's needed. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and already have it there. Again, we're already in the 4th round. I'm not opposed again. You got everything outside of not getting a wide receiver or a running back. We can get those right here at 146 and 164. But to get a tackle, and I like Brandon Crenshaw Dixon out of Florida. If I'm not mistaken, he played all right tackle.
Okay.
At Florida.
Yep. 683 snaps. Yep.
Like I said, for me, him standing behind Taylor Moton for 2 years or 3, and if he decides to retire, you don't have to go ahead and reach. You already got your future right tackle right there.
Okay. All right.
So I'll go ahead and take that tackle right there. And then next, I can go ahead and tell you we're going to need linebacker, running back, and wide receiver.
I know this linebacker is probably not going to be on the board, but I really, really like Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon. He's probably already off the board.
But Bassa was he's like an early 3rd. Mm-hmm. The latest.
He reminds me of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Cleveland. Like, just kind of plays with a reckless abandonment. Like, fast, instinctive, But, all right, so you want to take a look at linebackers?
Linebackers, wide receivers, and running backs.
All right. Linebackers, wide receivers, and running backs. All right. So we got Trevor Etienne, Kobe King. Nick Nash is still on the board. Wow.
That's my guy right there from San Jose State.
Yeah.
All right. Look at trade. I haven't did this, and I think I'm about to. What is that? 153.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Offer 229.
Mm-hmm.
And a future first. I mean, not first. A future fourth for their 153. Go ahead.
Done.
All right. So right here, go ahead and give me Pat Bryant out of Illinois.
Okay. Wait, why was Atlanta forfeited? Did they lose a pick this year?
You remember the whole thing with Kirk Cousins?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
All right, go ahead and look at wide receiver and linebacker.
Okay.
No, I'm not wide receiver. Running back and linebacker. My apologies.
No worries. I'll put all three of them on there. And linebacker. All right.
Go ahead and give me Kobe King.
Okay. I like that trade, man. I haven't done one with anybody that's done a trade in like the 5th round. Like that was pretty dope. I like that.
All right, go ahead and go to running back.
Okay. It's a lot of those this year.
Mm-hmm.
A whole bunch of those this year.
Cal, I like Cal. He's just small.
Mm-hmm.
Just scroll down a little bit. I already know they're gonna give you a C.
There go your boy, Taj.
I know.
You
can pull him up so people can see the reason why. Like I said, it's not just the interview, but I'm telling you, he's the leading rusher in Texas Tech history now.
1,500 yards last year, 1,500 yards this year. What's his body type? 5'10", 230. So he a beast. He ain't no little guy. Yeah.
You can go ahead and get him.
All right.
I know they're gonna give me a C for that, and I laugh at it.
Yeah, it's all good. I got a player that honestly, like, I'd probably get an F for this pick, but I'm gonna throw him up there anyway. He might be gone, possibly be gone, but I'll show you in just a second. So, man, let me see if I can like speed this thing up, man. What's up?
Yeah, you already know. You just got to pull that speed up. That's all.
Yeah. All right, so it's gonna be a second, but yeah, I don't know if this guy's still gonna be on the board, but I'm looking. It looks like right now, so far, he appears to still be here. I haven't seen him go off the board yet.
Okay.
Oh, he just went off the board. Dang it. Let's see. And one of his comrades just went off the board too. So let's see if the third one of them is here. All right, wide receiver. Let's see if he's there. Nope, he's gone.
Come on, from Colorado?
Yep. Man, and it's crazy because
was it Shepard or Jimmy?
Jimmy Horn, man.
Do you actually know? Do you know I interviewed him, right?
Did you really?
It's on my Twitter.
No, I didn't know that. Okay, I might have to go check it out.
I already knew whenever you were like his comrade, I'm like, I know, I'm like, he got to be talking about wide receiver because I'm like, a lot of people are saying they go, yeah. Jimmy Horn, I'm going to say this. Jimmy Horn is a true Florida man. I'm not going to call him a boy. Man. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Jimmy Horn again. He was my second interview. Mm-hmm. They tried to have us do an interview together and we laughed in the hallway. He was like, man, you trying to interview me again? I was like, nah, I'm like, I already got everything I need, Jimmy. He was like, all right, bet. He was like, I'm about to come back over there and chop it up with you. Very humble young man. Again, his story with his dad, man, I literally told him, I said, I watched Prom on Amazon and I said, I'm praying for your pops. I said, I'm not a little bit much older than you, but I said, I know he's proud of you. I said, you keep striving. You keep going, man. You keep doing what you're doing. He's a very humble young man. He actually earned his NFL combine based off of his season. I'm not going to take anything away from his season, but he dominated at the Shrine game. He literally got invited to the combine, I think, the week after the Shrine Bowl.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. I think he's one of those guys that, honestly, like, there's a chance that he'll fall. His story is so great. And really, as a player, his speed, like, it's just certain things that he does on the field that you just like, oh, my gosh, like, he just jumps off the page. But more importantly, I feel like he is one of those guys like Justin Jefferson, right? Now, I'm not saying that he's Justin Jefferson at all, but here's what I am saying. Nobody knew what Justin Jefferson was going to be as far as this great because who were the touchdown leaders? Jamar Chase and, oddly enough, Terrace Marshall Jr. right?
Yep.
So Justin Jefferson was good, but he didn't project to be what he became in the NFL. I feel like this guy is similar because there was two guys that were on the team that got more targets than him, LaJohntay Murray and obviously Travis Hunter. So he just kind of got lost in the shuffle and was only made available to make certain plays out of the slot when his number was called. I'm not saying that he's going to come in and be an X or a Z receiver, maybe an F like Adam Thielen, but he's your primary like guy that you can bring in, break a game open, create space in the middle of the field, other opportunities for other guys. I really like this kid. Like you said, great interview. I'm going to go back and watch that. But, if he's there, I'm taking a flyer.
Yeah, I like it. We already got our go to linebacker.
All right.
I hope Mondon Jr. out of Georgia is there. No, I'll say this. You scroll back up to the top. That linebacker, right?
Oh, sorry.
Wasn't it linebacker? I hope it was Indiana because I did read that pretty quick.
Utah, Kareem Reed.
Click on him real quick because I did so many mocks today. Like I said, this is another linebacker that I'm not opposed of. And one thing I'm looking at is his run defensive grade at an 82 almost. Again, we need people that are actually great in run defense and not missing tackles. And I'm not opposed to getting another linebacker that shows right here on tape that he stops the run and he doesn't miss a lot of tackles.
I like that too, because now you're drafting based on traits that are specific needs for this team. Because I feel like another guy that showed himself, worthy last year was Jacoby Wyndham. And it was kind of in just, hey, we need a guy out there. First hip drop tackle they called all season on him, which was, crap. But
the whole season, the first one the whole season came that late in the season. But man, he was everywhere. Like I love seeing that. So yeah, I'm with it, man. So I'm gonna take him, and yeah, that'll conclude the mock. So I'm gonna see what kind of grade they give us. Yeah, I already know they're gonna give. Look, I know 3 of them picks. They definitely gonna be like, y'all were bugging right there, man.
Yeah,
I already know it.
But you know what? The thing is, here's what I would love to do more than anything else. You're not drafting guys that you feel like are potential guys based on like certain metrics. You're drafting guys based on certain production that they've given, right? So like, let me give you an example of some guys that I would say would be more metric guys. I feel like no shot to him. I feel like what's my man's name from West Virginia? From Virginia Tech that we drafted. Amari Barno. That would be a guy that you're drafting like because he has potential upside. Not necessarily
just didn't work out because of injuries.
Right. And so I feel like with these picks, it feels to me like you're drafting guys based on what they do specifically at their position that they've shown that they can be really good at.
Be one of 11. Do your job.
Exactly. So, yeah, the Taj one, they killed us on that one. Honestly, if the Taj one was the one that we probably would have got an A-. But I'm with you. Like, remember when Puka Nacua got drafted, bro? And Puka was
everybody thought it was a horrible pick.
Yes. And it was like, what was it, a 5th round, right?
Yep.
Go back and look at, like, there were different charts that started coming out, like, later in the year. People trying to figure out, man, where did this guy come from? Go look at the charts. Look at the production. If you see your man Taj done rushed for 1,500 yards 2 years in a row, it don't matter where you play football.
And no injuries. No big injuries.
Yeah. It's like, if you can play ball, you can play ball. Like, it's pretty simple, right? So, like, Puka Nacua, you could see, like, targets, contested catches percentages. He was up there with the best that got drafted that year that he came out. He was in, like, you look at those graphs, he was right up there with all those other guys. And so it's like, It ain't that hard, man. If you putting that on film, it's a real thing. So, yeah. But salute to our mock draft, man. We did what we had to do. You know what I'm saying? We was a little armchair GM in it today. So, man, what's your, we'll end off with this, man. What are your hopes for the Panthers? I always ask, like, I ain't going to ask, like, record prediction or none of that crazy stuff. I'm just ask, like, what do you really hope to see this year? more than anything else? Do you hope to see progression, or do you hope that we become a, more of a contending team?
So my word for 2024 was progression. Now it's taken to the next level.
Yeah.
Again, the national media is basically telling you it's in Dan Morgan's hands.
Mm-hmm.
You got the quarterback, you got core pieces, you build around them, you got a blend of youth, experience, then you're going to have the draft. It's in Dan Morgan's court. I think Dan knows it. Again, I know people are saying we don't have any money. I will guarantee, take it to the bank, we will have over $50 million in cap space when free agency opens.
Restructured deals, like Taylor Moton's deal being restructured. What else?
Well, no, not be restructured. He'll be extended because you can't restructure him anymore. But you extend him. So I'll give you the breakdown. Okay. 2 extensions. It'll be Taylor Moton, J.C. Horn. Mm-hmm. Cap cut, Shot Tuttle, Miles Sanders.
Okay.
Restructure into a signing bonus, Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm missing one. I can't think of the top of my head. But right there, you're looking right at around $50 million. I think Carolina will be able to play with going into free agency. It's the same thing that happened last year. Everybody said we didn't have any money. We had any money. Then all of a sudden, this money came out of nowhere, which I tell people, be patient. The money will be available. Trust me, the brain trust of Brent Tillis isn't just sitting back there the whole time. They got a plan. Again, they said they had the plan. They already got the board started on this past Monday. They know the free agents that they want to go talk to. Again, we're going to have the money of $50 plus million.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I like it. Shoot. I can see that, man. So what do you think they could put together? Like, you think we could put together an extremely, like, if Bryce, let's just say that Bryce's trajectory is what we saw from last year, like we said earlier. You think we're a competitor next year? Like, competing for, division only? Or are we competing in the playoffs? Like, what say you?
It's not on Bryce. Literally, you can get that answer from me based off of how if we're able to get the certain free agents that we want to bring in, they agree to come.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if that defense is top 15 and the offense doesn't regress, I'm definitely saying we can compete for the NFC South. Playoffs is a new game. Again, I don't want us to be one and out, but playoffs is a different game. I'm glad Dave Canales is not being a rookie coach going into the playoffs, because I think he got better as a coach going into the year. He saw the mistakes that he had. So I do like, again, he was the play caller when they went into Detroit and almost beat the Detroit Lions the year before. So
that's right.
I do think we can compete for an NFC South championship, because, again, regardless of what anybody says, that door is always open for any team. So, again, we have to do our part, just like we know the opposing teams in the NFC South are going to do their part. But, again, I'm being a homer. I definitely think if we take care of business, Bryce keeps ascending up, hitting that new tier that he's trying to open up, the sky's the limit.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I'm a little bit more out the window, fanatic, optimistic, thinking that not only are we going to win the South next year, I think we're going to win a playoff game. But, I've been known to be the guy that has to put my foot in my mouth. Because, be jumping out the window with some of these takes here, boy. But Doug, man, tell the people where they can find you. This has been excellent.
All right, man. It's your man C Dougie over at Wassup Doug. WASSUP space DOUG. Again, I appreciate John bringing me on, man. We got something else coming up for you guys in about a month, so you guys enjoy this one, and then we'll have John over at Wassup Doug. Like I said, for our members, we have members only mock draft 2.0. We'll do a video for the combine with participants, so we think Carolina should talk to. Continuing the conversations from the Senior and Shrine Bowl, take a vacation, come back March the 13th. And like I said, you just got to stay tuned to see whenever we're going to have John over at Wassup Doug. So like I said, the content's been rolling all through 2025, man. So we got more in store for you guys. So I appreciate John having me on over here, man.
Man, I appreciate you coming on, man. You've been working really hard, man. Your work precedes you. So this has been an absolute pleasure for me. Like I said, I'm going to go check out, some of those previous interviews that you did at the Shrine Bowl. And also, guys, I'll drop all of his links in the description box below, so you can go check out everything that is Wassup Doug, man. One of the hardest working and one of the kindest Panther YouTubers out there, man. And so you know how we do it here, man. We love to be able to talk to people who not only want to have objective thought, right, but really show it in their work, because that's important to us, right? Because we don't claim to know everything. We want to learn from others, and that's what this platform is all about.
Appreciate that, man.
No doubt. This has been another episode of the One Carolina Podcast, y'all. It's myself, C. Dougie. Keep pounding.